What if I told you that electric vehicles are not as popular as people would have you believe? That majority of electric vehicle owners only bought these cars because of the bribe, I mean, the tax credit that the government gave them for buying an electric vehicle in the first place. And according to a poll recently taken, that majority of owners won't consider buying an electric vehicle until that bribe, I mean, tax credit comes back. So let's see just how bad it's about to get for electric vehicles now that the bribe, man, I gotta stop saying bribe. I mean, tax credits are no longer here. And we're gonna talk about that right now. Okay, I'm over 52,000 friends, and the 56% of you guys who are watching these videos and wondering why I'm wearing this robe, I had an allergic reaction to a shirt, so I'm just trying to make sure my skin stays, let's say, not infected with another situation. So I wanted to make sure that all 100% cotton of the finest threads are touching this skin. But let's get right into this article that I found on Car Scoops that is very, very interesting, because electric vehicles are not as popular as all these people try to tell you that they are. The majority of these owners wouldn't even consider an electric vehicle if it wasn't for your tax dollars and mine being given to them in order to actually buy these pieces of crap in the first place. So let's get right into this article. I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. So this is not just me. Turns out America's EV love has a price after all. The removal of tax credit could cut demand for EVs by a half in the US. Now that obviously didn't make any sense. The removal of tax credits could cut demand for EVs by half in the United States. Like definitely a typo, Brandon, or what? Brad, yeah, that's his name. His name's Brad. Brad, you got a typo, buddy. New studies shows that 60% of EV defectors need incentives of at least $5,000. At least $5,000 for some of these guys to actually consider buying an electric vehicle. That's over half of the owners that they surveyed. With the tax credits gone, automakers aim to rebuild trust through direct discounts. For example, Ioniq recently announced a $9,800 price cut for Ioniq 5, and Dodge did literally the same thing with the Charger Daytona. The Charger Daytona was like what $80-something thousand, and now they dropped the price down to like 60 and stuff. So they literally did like what, almost a $20,000 price cut because no one was buying the electric vehicle, and with these EV tax credits drying up, those vehicles were going to be piling up on a lot even worse than they already was. So let's go read this article. It is no secret that the government incentives have played a huge role in fueling America's appetite for electric vehicles. Without them, enthusiasm tends to cool fast. So it's hardly shocking that many former EV owners say they consider returning to battery power only if a generous incentive were back on the table, according to a recent study from the Harris poll. So you gotta be bribed by the government, giving free money in order to buy something. So that just go ahead and tell you right there that electric vehicles were not as popular, and the demand for electric vehicles were artificial because the government pushed people into doing it, and they did all these laws and rules and all this back table nonsense with CARB to make it harder for automakers to make a profit, and automakers got paid extra money in the background too to make electric vehicles. The survey conducted between September 23rd and 25th included responses from 2,000 adults across the United States. Of these, 1,675 participants, or about 80%, said they plan to buy or lease a new vehicle in the future. Within that group, 485 respondents, nearly 29%, said that they were extremely or somewhat likely to choose an EV. So you only got 30% of people who said they would consider buying an electric vehicle. So that's a lot of people who, let's say, own electric vehicles already. Oh, that's not good. Let's see, what would it take? Among respondents who had previously owned or driven an electric vehicle, but later switched away, 60% said they would need an incentive of at least $5,000 to consider returning to an electric vehicle. That's pretty interesting. You have to be bribed by a lot of money in order to actually drive that vehicle. Interesting. I thought it was all about the environment, but why is it about money at the end of the day? Let's see. A further 30% said they would need an incentive of at least $2,500 to $5,000 to reconsider, while 11% said they were willing to accept the incentive of a less than $2,500. $100. So that's a lot of people who needs money in order to consider driving something that the government kept telling us is such good for the environment and stuff, and freedom of mobility and all this other nonsense. At the end of the day, it comes down to money. And when the money dries up, people aren't interested. I mean, could you imagine if there being an incentive, like if they did this to where you go and let's say they gave you like an $8,000 tax credit if you buy a gasoline powered vehicle whose miles per gallon was over 30. Could you imagine the demand for gasoline powered vehicles then? Not this artificial nonsense with electric vehicles. Okay, let's see. Senior consultant at the Harris Poll, Greg Parator, acknowledges that affordability remains the top concern for 64% of electric buyers. And like I said, these vehicles are way too expensive, especially for what they are, right? You can't use these vehicles really in emergency situations, especially the battery's about dead. You got to sit there and wait about 30-40 minutes in order to charge the vehicle up, rather than you jump in your car, go to a gas station, fill it within like a minute, and basically you're done. So these vehicles right here, they're definitely a niche product, not a, you know, the one car only type situation, right? If I was to own an electric vehicle, I would only have it if I had a gasoline powered vehicle as well. I drove a Toyota Daytona for about what 6-7 weeks, and I mean, I was driving it was pretty convenient and stuff, but if it was my only car, I would lose the ability to do certain things with just doing electric vehicle stuff. But these electric vehicles, they're just way too pricey and stuff. The technology is not there to make them cheap, and you're just doing too much of a compromise to try to get into these things. But let's get down to the other part here. Here we go. The removal of the new and used EV tax credit will impact demand for electric cars. Parator noted that automakers could use the removal of the credit to build extra trust with consumers by helping share the added cost burden. Where is the extra cost burden even with the tax incentives, right? Why can you do both of them to make the vehicles even cheaper and stuff? Now you're trying to tell me that now y'all guys can take off like $9,000-$10,000 when the tax credit is gone, compared to when you got a tax credit and $10,000 off to make these vehicles way more affordable. So now you can build a trust. That just shows me you guys are just full of it. For example, Hyundai recently announced it's cutting the prices of the 2026 Ioniq 5 by a significant $9,800 in the wake of the tax credit removal. Additionally, Hyundai is offering a $7,500 cash incentive on the remaining 2025 Ioniq 5s that it has in its inventory and stuff. So like I said, why couldn't you guys go ahead and knock the price down $9,800 and also do the tax credit, right? That would have been over $16,000, or really $17,000 of money off the electric vehicles to make them way more affordable for people. But at the end of the day, it's about money and stuff. And these electric vehicles, they only gonna put discounts on them just to help them move, not to help you out in your pocketbook. It's very interesting. This article and stuff is very telling. Meanwhile, Ford chief executive Jim Farley, or Farley, I can't remember exactly how you pronounce his name. I know Chris Farley, but he warned that EV demand in the US could tumble by as much as half due to the tax credits removal. You were telling me you need a tax credit in order to stimulate an entire industry. Very, very interesting. Where is the actual demand for electric vehicles, not this artificial nonsense? If that happens, electric vehicle could see their market share shrink to around 5%, a figure last recorded in 2022. Very, very, very interesting. Without tax credits, there will literally be zero demand for electric vehicles. That's very interesting. Then you have, where is that up here? Where it said, let's see, at least 60% said of an incentive of at least $5,000. That's very, very interesting in order to consider electric vehicle. It's not about saving the planet. It's about saving these guys' wallet at the end of the day. But like I said, I found this article very, very, very interesting because this basically just shows you guys when they did this poll that there is literally zero EV demand if it wasn't for people throwing you my money, throwing you your money to these people driving electric cars. So like literally over 60% of people need to have an incentive in order to buy those cars. So I mean, why not have the same people have these incentives to buy gasoline powered vehicles that have over 30-35 mpg? why not do that crap in order to stimulate people to buy the most efficient gas versions? But the government had to basically meddle everybody's business and stuff, do all these crazy EV mandates and stuff, draw this false and not really accurate EV demand and stuff. And now that a new administration has come in and there's no tax credits, my money been given to, if you're an EV owner and stuff who's driving around an electric vehicle, my money is not being used to benefit you. Why can't that same money being used to benefit me on vehicles that I want to drive and not what you want to drive? But I just, like I said, I find this very interesting stuff, and I hope that all these electric vehicles and stuff come crashing and tumbling down in value and stuff, because there really is no demand because there's no credits for them. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Do you guys think that the EV push was, let's say, authentic or artificial? Do you guys think that electric vehicles are going to basically make a comeback, or will automakers have to drop prices down by $10,000, $20,000 in order for these vehicles to sell? And is it very telling that these same automakers who were basically relying on the $700 tax credit and stuff, now all of a sudden they can drop $9,000, $10,000 off on the price, but they couldn't drop the prices down and do this some at the same time to save you money and stuff? It's very, very telling. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. If you want to check out an electric vehicle that Dodge just canceled, and I guess we can figure out exactly why, because based on this survey, no one's going to buy it anyway, you can check out this video right here. And until the next time, I'm out.